I was 29 when Grandma died, and apparently that made me invisible at her funeral. Sarah, move to the overflow room, my brother Marcus whispered harshly as guests arrived. Important people need these seats. I was sitting in the third row of the chapel, wearing the simple black dress I'd bought at Target. Marcus stood there in his custom suit, his wife Jennifer beside him in what I recognized as a designer outfit that cost more than my monthly rent. Of course, I said quietly, gathering my purse. And maybe fix your hair? Jennifer added, her voice dripping with concern that wasn't really concern. This is a high-profile event. Grandma knew important people. I touched my simple ponytail and nodded, moving to the back of the chapel. Through the service, I watched my family hold court in the front rows, Dad and Mom in the center, flanked by Marcus and my sister Victoria. They looked like old money, which was ironic considering their actual financial situation. I knew things they didn't think I knew. After the service, the family gathered at my parents' house, the sprawling estate in Westchester that Grandma had purchased for them 30 years ago. I arrived in my 12-year-old Honda Civic, parking it far from the circular driveway where Mercedes and BMWs clustered like expensive jewelry. Sarah's here, I heard Victoria announce as I entered. She said it the way you might say, the plumber's here, or, there's a stain on the carpet. The living room was full of relatives and family friends, all dressed impeccably, all drinking expensive wine. I headed toward the kitchen, my usual station at family gatherings. Oh good, Mom said when she saw me. We need someone to manage the catering staff. Make sure they're not stealing anything. I can help with that, I offered. And Sarah. Dad called from his leather chair. After this we need to talk. Family meeting about Grandma's estate. Just the immediate family. Marcus smirked. The real family, he muttered to Victoria, who covered her laugh with her wine glass. I spent 3 hours coordinating food, cleaning dishes, and making sure everyone had what they needed. By 8 p.m. the guests had filtered out, leaving just my parents, Marcus, Victoria, and me. Sit down, Sarah, Dad said, gesturing to a chair positioned slightly outside their circle. He sat behind Grandma's old desk. He'd moved it into his study the day after she died. We need to discuss the estate. I sat, folding my hands in my lap. Mom leaned forward. Your grandmother was very specific about her wishes. Her fortune, and it's substantial, about $80 million, is to be distributed among her successful children and grandchildren. Successful, Marcus emphasized. People who've made something of themselves. I nodded slowly. I understand. Do you? Victoria asked, her voice sharp. Because we need you to understand that this money is for people who've actually accomplished things. Marcus is a senior partner at his firm. I'm a vice president at a Fortune 500 company. We've built careers, bought homes, raised families properly. While you've been working at that little nonprofit, Mom added, her nose wrinkling slightly. Making what, $35,000 a year? 38, I corrected softly. Dad waved his hand dismissively. The point is, Grandma's fortune is for successful children. Not failures. The word hung in the air like smoke. I felt its weight, its intended damage. I'd heard variations of it my entire life, but this felt particularly cruel, using Grandma's death as a weapon. The estate will be divided among those of us who've proven we can handle wealth responsibly, Marcus continued. Who've built something. Who understand investment and growth. Unlike you, Jennifer added, who can barely afford your studio apartment. I looked at each of them, their confident faces, their expensive clothes, their absolute certainty that they deserved Grandma's money. That they had earned it through their success. I understand, I repeated. Good, Mom said, relief in her voice. We were worried you might contest it. Make things ugly. But you're being reasonable. We'll make sure you're taken care of, Dad added magnanimously. Perhaps a small trust. 50,000 maybe. Enough to help you get on your feet, but not enough to waste. Victoria laughed lightly. Though knowing Sarah, she'll probably donate it all to one of her little causes. I stood up. Is that everything? One more thing, Marcus said. The reading of the will is next week. Tuesday at 2 p.m. Grandma's lawyer Richard Patterson will be there. You should come, I suppose. For formality. Of course, I said. As I walked to my car, I heard Victoria's voice carry through an open window. At least she didn't make a scene. Small mercies. The week passed in a familiar pattern. My parents called twice, once to remind me to dress appropriately for the will reading, once to ask if I could pick up a prescription for Dad because, "You don't have a real job, you have time." Marcus texted, "Hope you're not getting your hopes up about next week." Victoria posted on the family group chat, celebrating Grandma's legacy with people who made her proud, red heart, attached to a photo of her, Marcus, and our parents at an expensive restaurant. I wasn't in the photo. I hadn't been invited. I spent the week doing my job, managing donor relations for a small nonprofit that provided legal services to low-income families. The work paid poorly but mattered. At least it mattered to me. Tuesday arrived cold and gray. I put on my nicest outfit, a navy dress I'd bought 3 years ago, conservative and plain. I did my makeup carefully, pulled my hair back neatly. Patterson and Associates occupied the 15th floor of a building in Midtown Manhattan. The reception area was all dark wood and leather, the kind of place that smelled like money and old books. "Sarah Morrison?" the receptionist asked when I approached. "Yes. They're waiting for you in the conference room. Third door on the right." My family was already seated when I entered. Dad at the head of the table, Mom beside him. Marcus and Jennifer on one side, Victoria and her husband David on the other. They'd left an empty chair at the far end, away from everyone. I took it without comment. "Sarah," Mom acknowledged. "You're late." I glanced at the wall clock. "It's 1:58. "Punctuality means arriving early," Dad said dismissively. The door opened and Richard Patterson entered, a distinguished man in his 60s with silver hair and an expensive suit. He carried a leather portfolio and moved with the careful precision of someone who'd done this many times before. "Good afternoon," he said, taking a seat beside Dad. "Thank you all for coming. I know this is a difficult time. Let's just get through this, Richard," Dad said. His voice had the tone of someone used to controlling situations. "We understand the basic distribution. We just need the formalities." Patterson opened his portfolio slowly. "Actually, George, I think you'll find Eleanor's will is quite specific and perhaps unexpected." "Unexpected?" Mom's voice rose slightly. "Eleanor and I discussed her wishes many times. The estate goes to the successful members of the family." "That's correct," Patterson said. He pulled out a document. "Eleanor was very clear about rewarding success. However, her definition of success may differ from yours." Marcus leaned forward. "What does that mean?" "It means," Patterson said, his voice careful and professional, "that Eleanor Morrison revised her will 6 months before her death. Substantially revised it." The room went very quiet. "Revised it how?" Victoria demanded. Patterson looked directly at me. "Sarah, did your grandmother discuss her estate with you?" Every eye turned toward me. I met Patterson's gaze steadily. "Yes," I said quietly. "She did." "What?" Mom's voice was sharp. "When?" "Many times," I answered. "Usually on Thursday afternoons." "Thursday afternoons?" Dad repeated. "What are you talking about?" I kept my voice calm. "For the past 8 years I visited Grandma every Thursday. We'd have tea, talk about her week, her life. She told me about her wishes." "That's ridiculous," Marcus said. "We visited Grandma all the time." Patterson cleared his throat. "According to Eleanor's records, Sarah visited every Thursday without fail for 8 years. 416 visits. The rest of the family visited an average of 6 times per year." "We were busy," Victoria protested. "We have careers, responsibilities." "I understand," Patterson said. Eleanor understood too. She was very clear about who made time for her and who didn't. Mom's face had gone pale. "Richard, what exactly did Eleanor do?" Patterson pulled out another document. "The estate totals approximately $83 million. This includes the properties, investments, the family trust, and various accounts." "Yes," Dad said impatiently. "We know the amount." "Eleanor left $50,000 to each of her grandchildren except Sarah," Patterson continued. "She also left $50,000 to each of her children." Marcus smiled. "And the rest goes into the family trust, divided among—" "No," Patterson interrupted. "The rest, approximately $80 million, goes into a trust with Sarah Morrison named as the primary beneficiary and sole executor." The silence that followed was absolute. That's impossible, Dad finally said. It's quite legal, Patterson replied. I drew up the documents myself. Eleanor was very specific. Sarah receives full control of the estate with the authority to distribute funds as she sees fit to family members. This is insane, Victoria burst out. Sarah can't manage $80 million. She works at a nonprofit. She doesn't understand money. Patterson's expression remained neutral. Actually, Eleanor chose Sarah precisely because of her financial acumen. According to Eleanor, Sarah was the only family member living within her means, saving responsibly and making ethical choices about money. Ethical choices? Marcus's voice dripped with contempt. She's poor. She's prudent, Patterson corrected. There's a difference. Eleanor noted that despite Sarah's modest income, she has no debt, maintains a savings account and donates 15% of her income to charity. Meanwhile, he paused looking at Dad. Meanwhile, the rest of the family has been living significantly beyond your means, relying on Eleanor's financial support to maintain your lifestyles. Mom's hand flew to her throat. That's not we have. George and Patricia Morrison, Patterson read from his notes, currently have $340,000 in credit card debt, a mortgage on a property owned by Eleanor's trust, and car leases totaling $2,800 per month. Your lifestyle costs approximately $35,000 monthly, while your actual income is $8,000 per month from George's pension. Dad's face had turned crimson. How dare you? Marcus Morrison has $580,000 in personal debt, including a home equity line he can't afford and private school tuition he's paying on credit cards. Victoria Morrison has $420,000 in debt and 3 maxed-out credit cards used to fund her lifestyle. Patterson looked up. Eleanor has been covering your shortfalls for years. The house you live in, George? Eleanor owned it. The family trust, that's been paying your monthly expenses? Eleanor funded it. She was supporting all of you. Then the money should go to us. Victoria shouted. We need it. That, Patterson said quietly, is exactly why Eleanor gave it to Sarah instead. I sat very still watching my family process the information. Watching their confident certainty crumble into panic. This is a mistake, Marcus said desperately. Grandma was old, confused. Eleanor Morrison was sharp as a knife until the day she died, Patterson interrupted firmly. She revised this will 6 months ago with full mental capacity, witnessed by 3 independent parties including 2 doctors. It's unbreakable. Mom turned to me, her face pale. Sarah, you have to understand. We're family. You wouldn't cut off your own family. I met her eyes. Like you cut me off 5 minutes ago? That was different, Dad said quickly. We didn't realize. You didn't realize I'd be controlling your money, I finished. That changes things, doesn't it? Sarah, please. Victoria's voice had lost its sharp edge. We have children, mortgages, obligations. I know, I said calmly. I know exactly what you have. Grandma told me everything. Patterson pulled out more documents. The trust is structured as follows. Sarah has complete authority over all distributions. The monthly allowances that have been going to family members will now require Sarah's approval. Allowances? Marcus repeated weakly. Your parents receive $25,000 monthly from the trust, Patterson explained. Marcus, you receive $12,000. Victoria, $10,000. All of this was from Eleanor, though she arranged it to look like trust distributions so you wouldn't feel like you were receiving charity. Oh God, Mom whispered. Without these allowances, Patterson continued, George and Patricia will need to sell their home within 3 months. Marcus will need to pull his children from private school. Victoria will need to sell her car and downgrade significantly. The conference room felt smaller suddenly. My family sat frozen, understanding dawning on their faces. There has to be something we can do, Dad said. Legal action, a contest. You're welcome to try, Patterson said. But I should mention that contesting the will would be expensive. Legal fees would run approximately $200,000 minimum, and you have virtually no chance of success. Eleanor specifically anticipated this possibility and structured everything to be legally bulletproof. He closed his portfolio. The will also contains a provision. Any family member who contests it is automatically eliminated from future trust distributions. Marcus slumped in his chair. Jennifer's perfectly made-up face had gone blotchy. Sarah, Dad's voice was different now, smaller, uncertain. You're not going to, you wouldn't cut us off completely. Would you? I looked at him for a long moment. The man who'd called me a failure an hour ago. Who'd spent my entire life making me feel small and insufficient. I don't know yet, I said honestly. What do you mean you don't know? Mom's voice climbed toward hysteria. We're your parents. You owe us. I owe you. The words came out sharper than I'd intended. What exactly do I owe you? The room went silent. I owe you for the constant criticism, the dismissiveness, being called a failure at my grandmother's funeral, being told I'd never see her money because I wasn't successful enough. We didn't mean, Victoria started. Yes, you did, I interrupted. You meant every word. You've always meant it. I was the disappointment, the one who didn't measure up, the one you seated in the overflow room at Grandma's funeral because I wasn't important enough. Sarah, please, Mom whispered. I stood up. Mr. Patterson, what do I need to do to assume control of the trust? I'll need you to sign some documents, he said. We should also schedule a meeting to discuss the full scope of the estate and your responsibilities as executor. Can we do that now? Of course. My office is just down the hall. I moved toward the door. Behind me I heard Dad's voice. Sarah, wait. We need to talk about this. As a family. I turned back. They were all staring at me, my parents, my siblings, their spouses. All of them suddenly desperate for my attention. You're right, I said. We do need to talk. But not today. Today, I need to understand exactly what I'm responsible for. When? Marcus asked. His voice had lost all its earlier confidence. I'll let you know. I walked out with Patterson, leaving them sitting in the conference room. As the door closed, I heard Victoria say, "What do we do now?" And Dad's response, "I don't know." Patterson's office was smaller than the conference room but more personal. Books lined the walls and photographs showed him with what appeared to be his family. Genuine smiles, casual clothes, real moments. That was difficult, he said, gesturing for me to sit. It was necessary, I replied. He smiled slightly. Eleanor said you'd surprise them. She was right. Did she tell you why she chose me? She told me many things, Patterson said, pulling out a file. But mostly she said you were the only one who visited her because you wanted to, not because you needed something. The only one who listened to her stories, who remembered her birthday without a reminder, who asked about her life instead of talking about your own. He opened the file. She also said you were the only one who understood the difference between wealth and worth. I felt tears threatening but pushed them back. I'm going to miss her. She knew that too, Patterson said gently. He slid a document across the desk. Before we get into the technical details, I want you to read this. Eleanor left you a letter. The envelope was cream-colored, my name written in Grandma's careful cursive. I opened it with shaking hands. My dearest Sarah, if you're reading this, I'm gone and your family has just received quite a shock. I imagine they're not handling it well. I need you to understand something. I didn't leave you my estate to punish them. I left it to you because you're the only one I trust to use it wisely. Your parents are good people who lost their way. They became so focused on appearing successful that they forgot what success actually means. Your siblings followed the same path. They measure worth in dollars and status, and it's made them hollow. You, my darling girl, measured worth in kindness and time. You gave me both, expecting nothing in return. Every Thursday for 8 years you brought light into my life. You listened to an old woman's stories. You laughed at my jokes. You held my hand. The money I'm leaving you isn't a reward. It's a responsibility. Use it to help people who need help. Live your values. And if your family can learn to do the same, help them too. But don't let them diminish you again. You were never the failure they claimed. You were always the success I hoped for. With all my love, Grandma. I read it twice, tears falling freely now. Patterson handed me a tissue box without comment. She wrote that 2 weeks before she died, he said quietly. She knew exactly what would happen today. I wiped my eyes. She was always 3 steps ahead of everyone. She was indeed. Patterson pulled out more documents. Now let's discuss what you're actually managing. For the next 2 hours he walked me through the estate. The house in Westchester, worth $4.2 million. The vacation property in Cape Cod, $1.8 million. The investment portfolio, $68 million, carefully managed and diversified. The various trusts and accounts that had been funding my family's lifestyle. The monthly distributions total about $52,000, Patterson explained. That's what's been going to your family. As executor, you have complete authority over these. Can I change them? Yes. You can increase them, decrease them, or eliminate them entirely. You can also add conditions, financial counseling, budget requirements, whatever you think is appropriate. I stared at the numbers. $52,000 every month. More than I made in a year and a half. What would Grandma want me to do? Patterson smiled. She specifically instructed me not to tell you. She said you needed to figure it out yourself. But she did say one thing. Sarah will know the difference between enabling and helping. The others never learned it. I thought about that. About my family sitting in that conference room, panicking. About years of criticism and dismissal. About being called a failure at my grandmother's funeral. And I thought about Grandma's letter. If your family can learn to do the same, help them too. I need time, I said finally. Time to think, to process, to understand what's right. Of course, Patterson said. You don't need to make any immediate decisions. The current distributions will continue automatically for the next month. That gives you time. Thank you. He handed me a business card. My direct line is on there. Call anytime you have questions or need advice. I worked with Eleanor for 35 years. I'd be honored to help you. I drove home in a daze. My phone had been buzzing constantly, calls and texts from my family that I wasn't ready to answer. Marcus, Sarah, we need to talk immediately. Victoria, you can't seriously be considering cutting us off. Mom, please call me. Your father is very upset. Dad, we raised you better than this. I turned off my phone and sat in my small studio apartment, the one they'd mocked for years. The place was quiet, simple, mine. I'd chosen it carefully, furnishing it with pieces from thrift stores and garage sales, making it comfortable without debt. For the first time in my life, I had power over my family. Real, undeniable power. The question was, what would I do with it? I thought about Grandma's visits. Every Thursday like clockwork. She'd tell me stories about her life. Growing up during the Depression, building a business with my grandfather, learning to invest, watching her fortune grow. Money, she told me once, is just a tool. It can build or destroy, help or harm. The question is always, what are you building? What was I building? The next morning I called Patterson. I've made some decisions, I said. But I need your help implementing them. I'm listening. First, I want to set up a meeting with my family. But not immediately. Give them 2 weeks to think about their situation. Understood. Second, I want to hire a financial counselor. Someone who can teach them to budget, to live within their means, to understand money properly. I can recommend several excellent people. Third, I want to continue the monthly distributions but with conditions. They have to attend the financial counseling. They have to create budgets and stick to them. They have to start paying down their debt. Patterson was quiet for a moment. That's generous. It's what Grandma would want, I said. She didn't leave me this money to punish them. She left it to me because she knew I'd use it to help them change. And if they refuse? Then they'll learn to live on their actual income. I paused. But I don't think they'll refuse. I think they're scared enough to listen now. Eleanor would be proud of you. I felt tears again. I hope so. 2 weeks later we met again in Patterson's conference room. My family looked different. Smaller, somehow less certain. Mom's designer outfit had been replaced with something simpler. Dad's usual confidence had faded into something closer to anxiety. Sarah, he started as soon as I sat down. I held up my hand. Let me speak first. They nodded, silent. I've spent 2 weeks thinking about Grandma's estate and what she wanted. I've read her letter 100 times. And I've made some decisions. Marcus leaned forward slightly. Victoria gripped her husband's hand. I'm going to continue the monthly distributions, I said. The relief in the room was palpable. Mom actually gasped. But, I continued, with conditions. The relief faded slightly. You're all going to work with a financial counselor. You're going to create realistic budgets based on your actual income, not on grandma's money. You're going to develop plans to pay down your debt. And you're going to live within your means. Sarah, Dad's voice was uncertain. We can't just. Yes, you can, I interrupted. You're all smart, capable adults. You've just been living beyond your means for so long that you forgot how to do anything else. What if we don't agree to this? Marcus asked. His old defensiveness was creeping back. Then the distributions stop, I said calmly. And you figure out how to live on your actual income immediately instead of with support and guidance. He looked down at the table. I'm not doing this to punish you, I continued, my voice softer. I'm doing this because Grandma loved you. All of you. She just wanted you to learn what she tried to teach you for years. That wealth isn't about how much you spend. It's about what you build. Mom was crying quietly. We've been terrible to you. Yes, I agreed. You have been. I'm sorry, she whispered. I appreciate that, I said. But sorry isn't enough. I need to see change. Real change. Patterson cleared his throat. I have the names of 3 excellent financial counselors. I can arrange meetings this week if everyone agrees. We agree, Dad said quickly. He looked at me. Sarah, thank you. This is more than we deserve. It's what family does, I replied. Real family. Not the performance of family you've been doing for years. Victoria spoke up, her voice small. Can I ask you something? Yes. All those Thursday visits with Grandma. Did she talk about us? I thought about how to answer that honestly. Yes. He talked about all of you. He loved you. But she was disappointed. She wanted you to be better than you were. And now you have a chance to be better. To become the people she hoped you'd be. I stood up. Don't waste it. 6 months later, I sat in Grandma's old house. My house now, though I'd invited my parents to stay while they figured out their finances. We were having Thursday tea, a tradition I'd reinstated. The counselor says we've paid down $80,000 of debt, Mom said, showing me the spreadsheet she'd learned to maintain. Her voice held pride I hadn't heard before. That's excellent progress, I said genuinely. Marcus's kids adjusted to public school better than he expected, Dad added. He was different now, quieter, more thoughtful. He says they're actually thriving. And Victoria? I asked. She took a job with a smaller company. Less prestigious but better work-life balance. He seems happier. I sipped my tea. Grandma would be pleased. Sarah, Mom said carefully, I need to tell you something. What? For years I thought success meant appearances. The right clothes, the right house, the right schools. I measured everything by what other people thought. She looked at me with clear eyes. I was wrong. And I'm sorry I made you feel like you weren't enough. You were always enough, Dad added. We were just too blind to see it. I felt the old hurt, the years of criticism and dismissal. But I also felt something else. The possibility of something new. Something real. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking tea in Grandma's house. Outside, the garden she'd loved was blooming. Inside, slowly, carefully, we were building something that might actually be family. Not the performance of it. The real thing. Grandma would have been proud. 3 months later, I established the Eleanor Morrison Foundation, using a portion of the estate to provide financial literacy education to low-income families. Marcus now volunteers there twice a month. Victoria serves on the board. My parents donated their first $1,000 once they'd paid off their credit cards. The family still has their struggles. Old patterns don't disappear overnight. But we're learning, all of us, what Grandma tried to teach us all along. That worth isn't measured in dollars. It's measured in choices, in kindness, in what we build together. Every Thursday I still have tea. Sometimes alone with my memories of Grandma. Sometimes with family who are slowly, finally learning to be family. And every time I read her letter. The one that reminds me I was never the failure they claimed. I was always the success she hoped for.